Thank you very much for the introduction. My warmest greetings, dear ladies and gentlemen, to all of you who listen, who can attend these presentations. I'm in Vienna. I guess most of you are attending this from Ljubljana, and so I have to excuse myself that I'm not talking in Slovenian, but I'm sorry I have to do it in English. It is really a great pleasure and an honor for me to be part of this presentation of the first Slovenian translation of Fortunatianus Gospel Commentary. As a scholar who is spending most of his times leafing through manuscripts and looking if there are any interesting texts which still can be published for the interest of someone, it is really a pleasure when one sees that there is a public, that there are people who want to engage with the texts that one finds, who translate them and start working and just reading them. For today, my plan is that I will tell you some facts about the discovery of the Gospel Commentary of Fortunatianus of Aquileia, which was thought to be completely lost, apart from some excerpts, until the year 2012. I will try now to unlock my screen for you so that you can see the same things that I can see here on me. Oh, no, okay. You should see now here an image of the Cathedral Library of Cologne in Western Germany. And to the right, another image of some of the books which belong to the collection there. The Library of Cologne is a very, very ancient one. It goes back at least until late Merovingian times, and until the present day, it has a huge collection of manuscripts of handwritten books from the 7th century until the late Middle Ages. And it was in this library, in the library of the Cathedral of Cologne, that I found the manuscript that until now is known as the one surviving full witness to the Gospel Commentary of Fortunatianus. But it may be interesting for you that my first identification, my first acquaintance with this book was not with the real book. I was not there in Cologne going through the books, but I was sitting like today in Vienna, here on my table, on my working desk, because the Library of Cologne, they have put all their treasures, their oldest manuscripts online. Everyone can look at the books of Cologne Cathedral Library and can read in them via the homepage of the library. This is the title page of the homepage of this library, and here you can see how you can go there. It's quite easy to navigate through the site, and you can have a look at these wonderful manuscripts that they have there. And one of these manuscripts is the one that bears the shelf mark number 17. It doesn't look really beautiful or impressive at the outside, as you can see. This is a book, its height is approximately 30 centimeters and its width approximately 20 centimeters, so it's pretty much what we are accustomed to from our modern books, and it is bound in this not really beautiful leather from the 18th century. it certainly had a much older envelope at some times, but in the 18th century, someone in Cologne had the bad idea to throw away the old medieval envelope and to take on this leather thing on the book. But when we open the book, then we see this title page. And this is a very special thing because when I first looked into this book, I knew that it contained some kind of gospel commentary which bears no author's name. And usually medieval manuscripts with gospel commentaries are very, very simple books without ornaments. They were destined to be used by monks, to be read regularly, to be studied. And so these were not luxury products. But this title page of this text is, yeah, it's beautiful and it is astonishing because I didn't suspect to find something like that. You can read here, Regulam Evangeliorum Quatuor, rule of the four Gospels, which seems to be the title. And here in the right column, Matthäus Regulam Justitiae tenens, Matthew holding up the rule of justice, which are in fact the beginning words of the main text of this commentary. When one turns the page, then the ordinary text, so to say, begins. It's written in medieval and Carolingian uncials, which is even for us today with not much experience, quite easy to read. And the sentence which began at the first page with Matthäus, it just keeps over here and it runs here. And after seeing this precious title page, I had the idea to take a closer look at the text because I was interested in a gospel commentary who would begin with such a luxurious title page. And it was here at the end of the first column that I saw in the text the name of the evangelist Luke written in the form Lucanus. You can see that the original scribe wrote clearly Lucanus, and then some later corrector who thought that he knew better corrected it with this point on nus. He signaled that this has to be changed, and he wrote here an S. So he said he thought that Lucanus should be changed to Lucas, and Lucas is indeed the form of the evangelist that we usually find in Latin texts, but it's not the oldest form. In fact, Lucanus is really the oldest form of the name for the evangelist Lucas that we have in our witnesses. In the manuscripts of Bishop Cyprian of Carthago from the 3rd century after Christ, this form Lucanus is regularly used instead of Lucas. And also in some of the oldest witness to the gospel text of the New Testament that we have that survived until today, it is also this form Lucanus, not Lucas, that is used for the name of the evangelist. So I was totally perplexed to find this here in this text, because if a Latin text uses this form, Lucanus, then it must be a very, very old text. Certainly not later than the 4th or 5th century, when the Vulgate Latin translation made by Jerome definitely sustained the form Lucas for the Old Latin form Lucanus. And that's not only this occurrence here. When you read on here in the text, in the right column, you see again, est evangelium secundum Lucanum. The gospel according to Luke. Evangelium secundum Lucanum. And again here, some later corrector corrected the form Lucanum to the form that he was accustomed to, that is Lucam, with this nasal stroke to signal the final M. And all through the text, this form Lucanus and its other cases, Lucani, Lucano, Lucanum, is found again and again in this text. So it was clear to me that this anonymous text cannot be later than 4th century, perhaps much earlier. So I started to check the gospel quotations in this commentary, because I already mentioned Jerome. You all know that the Latin texts of the New Testament that the Middle Ages used was basically the translation made by Jerome at the turn from the 4th to the 5th century, which is known today as the Vulgata text. And this Latin text is quite different from the older Latin translations of the Gospels, whose translators are not known by their name. But we have some manuscripts of Latin translations older than Jerome. And it turned out that the Gospel quotations that were quoted and used in this commentary, in this text, they all confirmed to the Old Latin texts, not to the Vulgate. So this was an additional proof that this gospel commentary could not be older than from the 4th century. And that was when I began to transcribe the whole text word for word, because to analyze it as clearly as possible, I knew that I had to have the whole text of the commentary in modern format. And so I just transcribed it word for word, letter to letter, into a modern Word file. And then I came to this passage, which is the beginning of chapter 99 from the commentary on the Gospel of Matthew in this commentary. And when I read these words, I was reminded on a text that I had read some time before. And it turned out that this is one of only 3 excerpts that were known until then from the Gospel commentary written by Bishop Fortunatianus of Aquileia in the middle of the 4th century. Because, as I said, the whole text was suspected to be lost, but 3 very short passages of this commentary were known because they were quoted in other manuscripts of other writers. And what you see here to the right side, this is just a modern printed edition of an edition of one of these 3 excerpts, and you can compare here. Ite in castellum quod contra vos est, ite in castellum quod contra vos est. Okay, this is not so interesting because this is just the quotation from the Gospel of Matthew, but then the proper text of the commentary starts, and as you can see, ostendebat Jesus quia Jerusalem adversus apostolos erat, and so on. And so I found out that the commentary that I was transcribing from the Cologne manuscript that it was partly known already from these excerpts, and these excerpts, they were attributed to Fortunatianus of Aquileia. And everyone knew that Fortunatianus of Aquileia had written a full gospel commentary, but everyone thought that we would only have these 3 excerpts. So it was quite easy to see that this book from the Köln Cathedral Library, in fact, must be a copy of the whole commentary, although without the author's name. Everything fitted together. The time, the gospel quotations, especially the excerpts. And the next thing that I did was that I compared the text of this commentary with the corpus of sermons and with the corpus of gospel commentary on Matthew that is known from Chromatius of Aquileia, a later successor to Fortunatianus. And it turned out that again and again, almost on every page, there were striking similarities between these 2 commentaries. So you could see one of these texts had been used by the other one. And it is clear that that Chromatius of Aquileia, a later successor of Fortunatianus, must have known the work of his predecessor in full, and he made use of it. So everything fitted together, and that was what enabled me to put forth the identification of this text preserved anonymously in the Cologne manuscript with Fortunatianus' Gospel Commentary. I published it first in 2013. In 2017, the first edition of the full Latin text was published. Until now, as far as I know, no one has doubted that this must be, in fact, the commentary by Fortunatianus. And I'm very happy to see that now, some years after the first edition of the original text has been in everyone's hands, now the translations of this text into modern languages begin. And I'm happy to have this nicely produced book here with the Slovenian translation on my desk. I thank my colleagues in Ljubljana and in Rome very much for it. And with these words, I want to close my presentation. If you have any questions as to the identification of the commentary, then you are more than welcome to ask them now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your beautiful presentation. Hvala za to lepo predstavitev, ki jo bom še na kratko povzel zdajle po svojih zapiskih, kot sem jih uspel zdajle še povzeti. Torej, dr. Dorfbauer pravi, da je počaščen, ker ima možnost, da sodeluje na predstavitvi prvega slovenskega prevoda Fortunacijanovih del. Z užitkom je študiral, gledal rokopise in pravi, da je velik užitek, ko nekdo najde rokopis, ki ga hoče še kdo pregledati, brati, prepisovati. Povedal je zgodbo odkritja tega rokopisa, evangeljskih komentarjev Fortunacijanovega, za katerega so bili prepričani, da je izgubljen do leta 2012. Najprej je pokazal stavbo Kölnske stolnice in knjižnice, v kateri se nahaja ta rokopis. In to je ena najstarejših knjižnic, kjer so hranjene knjige že od merovinških časov dalje. V veliki zbirki rokopisov od 7. stoletja do poznega srednjega veka, kjer smo tudi videli eno od polic, je našel ta rokopis, edino celotno pričo Fortunacijanove razlage evangelijev. Prvo srečanje s tem rokopisom ni bilo v živo v tamkajšnji knjižnici, ampak na Dunaju za delovno mizo na zaslonu, kajti Kölnska knjižnica je v celoti digitalizirana in ste jo lahko dobili, jo lahko tudi vi prelistate in pogledate na naslovu www.cecc.uni-koeln.de in tam je ta rokopis prikazan pod številko 17. sploh ni lep in ne da nobenega posebnega vtisa na zunaj. Velik je približno toliko, kot so naši A4 formati, 30x20 cm približno, uvezan niti ne v lepo usnje, pravzaprav prevezan, kajti v 18. stoletju so imeli manijo, da so stare vezave metali proč, pa je bila verjetno ona prejšnja precej lepša od tiste 18. stoletne. Potem smo si pogledali naslovnico, ki jo imamo tudi zdaj pred seboj, kjer je prebral lahko na levi strani naslov Regulam evangeliorum quatuor, spodoben naslov, vodilo, pravilo 4 evangelijev. Potem pa se v drugem stolpcu že bere besedilo samega dela. Že v drugem stolpcu naslovnice teče sam tekst, Matej se drži pravila pravičnosti. Ko gre na naslednjo stran, pa je pokazal, da so posebnosti na temle tekstu, ker tekst je napisan v uncialni pisavi, dokaj lahki za branje. Opazil pa je zadnjo vrstico prvega stolpca, mimogrede to je tudi njegovo ime, zato je bil še toliko bolj pozoren, tega ni posebej povedal, kjer je ime evangelista napisano kot Lukanus, spodaj pod NU pa so še 3 pike. Očitno je neki prepisovalec, neki kasnejši bralec, menil, da je tu napaka in je želel to napako popraviti. Gre pa v resnici za starejšo verzijo imena tega evangelista Lukanus, ki pa je v 4. in 5. stoletju že pojemana. V 3. stoletju imamo v Afriki avtorja Ciprijana, ki redno imenuje tega evangelista Lukanus. Potem pa se je to ime od Vulgate dalje posodobilo v Lukas. Vendar pa to kaže, da ne gre za neki srednjeveški, poznosrednjeveški tekst, ampak da je to besedilo očitno nastalo nekje med 4. in 5. stoletjem. Isto ime se pojavi še na sredini drugega stolpca, tudi spet s pikicami, in tako skozi vse besedilo v vseh sklonih. Jasno, ta neznani tekst mora biti iz 4. stoletja. Šel je preverjati potem avtor evangeljske citate in jih primerjati s citati iz Vulgate, iz Hieronimovega prevoda, ki je nastal v začetku 5. stoletja. In videl je, da so praktično vsi ti teksti Svetega pisma drugačni, torej da niso prevodi iz Vulgate, pač pa iz starejšega prevoda iz Vetus Latine. Torej, še en dokaz, tekst je iz 4. stoletja. Začel je prepisovati besedilo od začetka do konca, da bo lažje delal analize. In prišel do 99. poglavja teksta za razlage Matejevega evangelija, na kar se mu je to posvetilo, da je nekod ta tekst že znan, da ga je nekje že videl. To je pa dejansko eden od 3 znanih fragmentov, doslej še znanih fragmentov Fortunacijana Oglejskega. Analiziral je potem še vse besedilo, našel še ostale Fortunacijanove citate, potem pa je se vse ujemalo. Potem pa je primerjal še s besedili Fortunacijanovega naslednika, Kromacija, ki je odkritje 20. stoletja. Tudi njegov prevod imamo v slovenščini šele nekaj let. In kaj je ugotovil? Da obstaja veliko podobnosti med obema komentarijama. To pomeni, da je eden uporabljal drugega. Očitno, zdaj ko imamo vse te podatke na kupu, lahko rečemo, da je Kromacij poznal Fortunacijana in da je uporabljal v svojem komentarju. S tem je bila identifikacija gotova. Leta 2012 je to odkril, 2013 je to objavil in 2017 je išla prva izdaja latinskega besedila. Doslej še nihče ni spodbijal Fortunacijanovega avtorstva pri tem delu. Vesel je, da se prevaja v sodobne jezike, prevedeno je že v angleščino in danes predstavljam tudi slovenski prevod. Samo še drobižek, tudi v slovenščino smo že dobili nekaj drobcev kmalu potem, kmalu po objavi Dorfbauerjevega članka me je opozoril na to odkritje akademik Rajko Bratož in seveda sem šel takoj tole pogledat, ker sami vidite, da besedilo ni tako težko za branje. sem poiskal zanimiv odlomek in sem ga dal prevesti in sem prevedel to v Magnifikatu že, mislim, da tam leta 2014 ali 2015. Tako da nekaj malega vzorca smo že dobili, pa tudi na eni od radijskih katehez na Radio Ognišče smo že poslušali odlomke, ki so prevedeni direktno iz tegale rokopisa. Dr. Dorfbauer je izrazil veliko veselje in hvaležnost slovenskim avtorjem, ki so se lotili prevajanja in te izdaje. In je zdaj...